How's it going, guys? We have a possible question for Renal. Before we get started, please subscribe to my channel. I really appreciate it. Give me a like, really appreciate it. Find me on Instagram, Mehlman_medical, MEHL, man_medical. Link is down below. Find us on Telegram. Links to the Telegram group and channel down below. Now start the clip. 31-year-old woman. The fuck am I saying? 71-year-old woman. She has chronic kidney disease due to type 2 diabetes mellitus. Serum creatinine 3.1 should be 0.7 to 1.2. Once you've hit a creatinine of 2, you've lost 90% of your renal function. BUN should be under 20. It's 45. The exact numbers don't matter. The point is they're elevated. And what's our arrow combination going to be? Let's start with bicarbonate. It's going to be a down arrow because we have a metabolic acidosis. It's an up arrow for our anion gap, isn't it? High anion gap metabolic acidosis. Since renal failure is the U in mud piles, uremia means renal failure. So methanol, uremia, DKA, propylene glycol, iron isoniazid, lactic acidosis, ethylene glycol, which is antifreeze, salicylates, which is aspirin, right? So we have an up arrow, anion gap, down arrow, bicarb, and the reason we have a metabolic acidosis is for two reasons, actually. The kidney cannot reabsorb bicarb in the PCT the way it's supposed to, and it cannot secrete protons distally in the cortical collecting duct under the action of aldosterone as effectively as it should be. So let's look at our potassium now. It's going to be up or down. The answer is going to be up, always high in renal failure. Okay, two main reasons. One, you can't filter it out the way you're supposed to, up at the level of the glomerulus. And a bigger reason is that you can't secrete it distally under the action of aldosterone the way you're supposed to. Okay, so you're always going to select an up arrow for potassium. Sodium can be variable, not part of this question, but just tangentially. Sodium is variable. You can see low, normal, high, and it's because we have multifarious mechanisms for modulating sodium micturition, okay? And that's going to be ADH and aldosterone, angiotensin II, various effects. So now in terms of our calcium, is it going to be up or down? The answer is it's decreased calcium, so our correct answer is F here. Calcium is always low in renal failure if we're forced to choose, okay? Now, there's two main reasons. The first is you simply can't reabsorb it at the late DCT under the action of PTH the way you're supposed to. PTH normally inserts an apical late DCT calcium channel, pulls it out of the urine, fine. Second reason is PTH doesn't activate 1-alpha hydroxylase in the PCT, converting inactive 25 into active 125. Latter goes to the small bowel, increases calcium absorption. If you can't do that, serum calcium is low. And then because serum calcium is low, you're going to decrease negative feedback to the calcium sensing receptors of the parathyroid glands, and PTH will have to compensate. So it's called secondary hyperparathyroidism, where we have a reason outside of the parathyroid glands themselves, which is why our PTH is high. So it's the low calcium caused by the renal failure that caused our PTH to go up, hence secondary hyperparathyroidism. Now, phosphate is always going to be high in renal failure because you simply can't filter it out the way you're supposed to at the glomerulus. In addition, PTH normally downregulates 3 different types of phosphate symporters on the apical membrane of the PCT. So if PTH can't do that, then we have too much phosphate absorption. The PCT sounds weird, but you got to know it. So another point a student can make who's astute says, well, if you have vitamin D deficiency in renal failure, wouldn't phosphate be low, not high? So this is an important point, and I've distinguished this in my content. If you have vitamin D deficiency unrelated to renal failure, such as sunlight deficiency or alcoholism, okay, you're going to have a down arrow calcium, down arrow phosphate. You're not absorbing them in the small bowel. In renal failure, if you have vitamin D deficiency, the effect of the renal failure wins over the decreased phosphate absorption in the small bowel. So kidney disease causes your phosphate to go super, super high. You're not absorbing it in the small bowel, but the net effect is you still have high phosphate in the blood. So we have down arrow bicarb, down arrow pH, up arrow potassium, variable sodium, down arrow calcium, up arrow phosphate, up arrow PTH. Choice H, wrong fucking answer.